Hey dudes, looking today at the Spyderco Chaparral. Now this is a really light, really cool, I guess everyday carry knife, which is also great for being like a formal carry or a occasional type carry knife, if that is your thing. If you like to ultra categorize your knives, you would put this in the gentleman's folder type category. Now this knife reminds me a lot of a Alma Falcon, just with really flash or much flasher material. So that's the Falcon and that's the Chaparral. So in terms of sort of even down to size, cutting potential, all sorts of things like that, simplicity and action and whatnot, this is a really comparable knife. And the crazy thing is it is almost the same price too, a little bit more, but given the extra step in materials, it's actually, compared to the Falcon at least, a really good deal for that kind of knife. Anyway, I'll do some more comparisons in a minute, but we'll just go over what you get. So this is a Cts X Hp Blade, and it is 2mm at the spine. That is a very thin knife. So it's up there with the Falcon, which is one of the sliciest little blades going. So Cts X Hp with a very fine edge. You can see the reflection there coming from the fellow who I got this from. With that thick stock makes this the sharpest knife I've ever had. Quite easily the sharpest knife, the best slicer I've ever had. And that's not an exaggeration, it's after a good week of pretty consistent use, and it is a very sharp knife indeed. So, great XHP blade, just under the 3-inch mark, really good carryable length blade. Behind that forward finger choil, which my favourite Spydercos all have, is a carbon fibre handle scale, and that is pure carbon fibre, I believe. It doesn't appear to be a laminate. It may be, but I'm not sure. It looks, because it has definite depth of texture to it, as you can probably see by the light bouncing off of it. It's at least a fair thick laminate of it rather than just that sort of shiny stuck on that you get on other carbon fibre knives. It's a lockback knife, and it is on bronze washers, I believe, yes, and it is a lockback, very sort of traditional style. Now this is not a flicking open knife, it is a smooth opening knife, and the previous owner has got this to a point of optimum smoothness. However, it is never something that you're going to be able to go wah, and flip open, simply because that thin, short blade does not have the weight behind it to really catch and launch like that. It's a lockback, so say a heavier bladed lockback like the Endura here, you can really launch that thick, heavy tip out, and it does a lot of the heavy lifting for it once it gets to about this point. So no real problems there at all. But then in terms of actual operational thickness, the Chaparral definitely feels about as smooth, not thickness, smoothness. However, just when it comes to going, extending the blade, rocketing out, it just doesn't happen. So this is something you're going to be using for not the most, fidget friendly of times. This is just going to be your cutting tool if you're not too bothered about fidgeting with your knife, or if you're after something that looks a bit more flash. In terms of performance, I'd say it performs very much like the Native 5, perhaps a little bit smaller, but very much there. Very classy version of the Native 5, or perhaps even the Spyderco Delicate. Very similar ratios, just with that added finger choil and probably a little bit less cutting edge of the blade. That leaf-shaped blade is really versatile, as we all know who have used Spydercos, and combined with the opening hole rather than the thumb stud, it really is a great slicer. Material just passes over the hole rather than getting stuck or hung up on a thumb stud. Thumb stud knives generally have to make sure that the stud is set back a little way so they're not in the cutting path, as this Alma does to perfection. So I really like this combination of thin XHP, carbon fibre handle, the fantastic Spyderco wire clip, as well as really high level of fit and finish from the Taichung factory. It's got steel liners that are semi-skeletonized, sort of got some holes drilled into them, not super, loss of material, but doing pretty well. And then you've got a disassemblable pivot system, so it's going to be a bit of a not the easiest knife in the world to disassemble, because you have to take it there, and then there'll be a spring assembly in here for the mid-lock back, but you can still take it apart, and we all know Spyderco's warranty's changed, so you don't need to be as bothered about doing that, which was a great move by them, in my opinion. So, overall, I'll just be showing some cutting footage of this bad boy, and it is. Even if you haven't got someone to put an amazing edge on it like this, thin stock like this, as shown on my Alma Falcon videos, it just cuts crazy well. Yeah, for your heavier tasks, the blade might be a little bit thin, it might get a bit bound up on your thicker rope or something similar to that. You just might not quite have that wedge-like ability to just part thicker, coarser material, but things like food, things like paper, things like thin little strings. I cut off a bunch of tags from kids' clothes with this on the weekend after we came back from shopping. Bunch of tags, and it did really, really well. Just fell through them. Fantastic. So a really good sort of light everyday carry / gentleman's carry, but really if this was your only knife, you'd do fine with it as long as you didn't abuse it. This knife and a big strong knife like this knife, you'd pretty much have all your tasks covered, I reckon. And the Cts X Hp steel, as you've seen in my steel test, is a real heavy hitter in terms of total amount of rope cut, so it's going to hold its edge for a long, long time. Interesting to see whether this finely honed, I would assume KME style angle sharpen edge, holds any longer than my workshop convex edge, which may be a slightly duller edge but probably a tougher edge, is yet to be seen, and I will do some kind of test on that in the near future. But my initial impressions after a week of using this Chaparral have easily put it into my favourite class of knives, which is a light everyday carry similar to the Alma Falcon. Not as ultra lightweight as this one due to it having liners and such, but definitely a real sort of pleaser for me. I really like knives of this size, this weight, and of this capability. Thank you very much for watching, dudes. I hope you enjoyed this little snapshot, and I'll see you in the next video. And by the way, I came upon this knife using the raffle system on the Australia and New Zealand Spyderco raffle site. There's a Facebook group called the Spyderco Australia and New Zealand group, which is a must join if you are a Spyderco fan. It's a great page. It's not full of shit like lots of other fan pages are about. It doesn't have memes and rubbish like that. It's just people sharing the Spydercos they buy and talking about Spydercos they want and just being generally supportive and nice. Maybe because it's a small community, I'm not sure, but it is certainly open to others to join, providing you come and you don't be a cock. So there we go. Something to definitely look into. Maybe I'll put a link on it below. If you do come along, just don't be a wanker, and for goodness sakes, don't start posting minion memes and things like that. I also know, and it's also sort of not particularly disparaging of other brands as well. It's just people positive on Spyderco getting together and shooting the breeze. So anyway, it also has a raffle subset group where you can enter raffles for these things. So someone will want to sell a knife, they'll do a detailed listing on it, and then you can buy a ticket for the raffle for $10 per ticket or about that, you know. So this was, I think, this had about 20, maybe 10 or so tickets at $15 each, or 15 tickets at $15 each. So I bought, I think, 2 tickets, and I won. So for $30 I got this knife. The seller made his full price that he wanted, and everyone just had a bit of a flutter on it. It was really, really good. So great way of doing business. It is frighteningly addictive though, so just be careful. But anyway, that's an aside on what the Australian Spyderco community is up to. But in the meantime, if you can pick one of these Chaparrals up, I would highly recommend it. I think it's a great size, a greatly capable knife, and definitely in terms of one of Spyderco's greats, easily up there with the Delica, with the Endura, with the Manix, with the Native, all those sorts of blades. Really, really good stuff, people. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.